How are you guys here this year? I know in years past there wasn't a Topps president at the National, but this year you're here, you're doing a panel, you guys have a redemption giveaway. So I was curious as to why the change this year.
Business decisions. So I think this year we have a duty and responsibility to be here, given we are basically the exclusive trading card company, and I think we need to be a leader. And I know I personally, and David and John and Clay all felt that it was very important for us to be here. To be fair, the last 2 years, the decision was made that one time, 2 years ago, the economy fell apart and things were horrible. And to be fair, our business was horrible, and we were focused on trying to fix our business. And at that point, it just didn't make sense to be traveling. To be fair, I think a lot of people felt it in businesses. Like there just weren't dollars and there weren't resources, and we were focused and dedicated to figuring out how to get our business out of the depths of where it was. So it was business decision. This year, things are better. And we feel like it's our responsibility to be here. And my hope, as long as I'm here and as long as I'm part of the leadership team, is that we'll be here supporting the hobby. And I think for the guys on here, they agree with that.
And I'll speak to that real briefly. The thing is, I haven't been with Topps that long, and we haven't had a sort of a social media presence that long. And especially with the National, not that they hadn't planned on coming anyway, but I kind of showed up and tried to figure out what everybody wanted and what everybody was talking about and that kind of thing. And one of the first things that people asked me was, why aren't you guys at the National? Why don't you go to the National? So one of the first things I went to these guys with is, why don't we go to the National? And they, so I'd kind of like to reiterate the point that you guys, through me a little bit, have somewhat, I'm naive and I bug these guys all the time, and now I go upstairs to their offices and they hate it. Because
20 emails a day.
Yeah, Clay literally does like 20 emails a day for me, just coming to him with the things that you bring to me. So we want to make ourselves more accessible. We want to do things like this. We want to put ourselves out there, and there is a commitment to it, and you can pester me for stuff like that, and I will absolutely pester them because nothing makes me happier. Who hasn't asked the question? So many people. Go ahead.
Just a question. It's an easy question. Do you have any plans for for basketball? Any special releases or anything new for basketball?
No. Competitively, we can't really talk about it.
In the back.
With your renewed success, do you have any plans, future plans for giving back to the community and charity?
Oh, I mean, that's a good question.
Our cards are biodegradable.
I don't have an honest answer for that. I think it's a fair question, and it's probably something as an organization we overlook. That's not to suggest that we don't care about the communities. I can tell you personally, we do get a lot of requests often for fundraisers. We get a lot of requests for Little League and youth baseball, and we typically always handle those requests. We work a lot with baseball, and we're always donating items for charity and for auctions. And I don't know if that's enough, but I think people here recognize the importance of giving back to the community and donating. And I think while it's done quietly and the broader collective community doesn't know about it, I mean, we are doing things. But to be fair, there's probably broader, bigger things that we can do as an organization.
Just for curiosity, because I think that's a great question too. And we do, from the sales side, we do get involved with accounts on many, many levels, where we're doing different types of fundraisers for different events. From doing events for children that have had illnesses, where we donate prizes in our time and we try to support and promote the event. Is there anything that do you have any recommendations on areas that we should look into that you would think would be a benefit to the company?
Really, not at this time, but I think education in general, with education funds being continually cut, it's going to be a while before our industry catches up, and just be interesting, something that
I mean, I think it's a great point. We'll definitely have conversations about that.
All right, in the back corner there.
Here's a question. Since you're chasing market share, your portfolio only has a little bit of room to move in, and you continually seem to bring new products in and discontinue products, how's your longevity? Because the only product that you keep doing is the basic top sets, which is what really started the company at one time. And as you bring quantities in and then you say, okay, we're not going to build them anymore, how does that younger collector who's been buying that brand for 5 years and it stops, how does he stay in the hobby then if it's gone?
I want to let these guys answer that, but I do want to say one thing very passionately as a salesperson. There's no company out there that takes branding more serious than the Topps company. When we create a brand, we hope to God it's going to be for life. And when you look at our portfolio, there's been no other manufacturer in the history of any other company being in business since we've been in business that has been able to have brand longevity. So we're highly, highly invested to the point where, you know, we brought Stadium Club back, and that thing should have been killed, you know, way before it eventually was put to rest. So with that, I'll let Clay and these guys and David answer that question. But I think when you look at our portfolio, I think it's fair to say that we have a longevity.
I mean, yeah, if you look really closely at it, at our 17 products, there's products like Topps Chrome and Topps Finest. They've been around for over a decade. Topps Heritage is coming up on that too. But Topps always has that name that you think of that's, you know, obviously going to be 60 years. But our other brands have had a pretty strong history. And like John said, we're true believers in branding. And like you said, for kids and collectors, that continuity is important. They have to be able to speak a common language, whether it's within 1 year or over the next year. Like I was speaking to some people today, and we were doing the redemption. And this lady, she had like 5 boxes of Ginter. And I go, oh, you really love this product? Because I said, I'm a big fan of it too. And she said, I've been collecting this product, and it's the only one I do for 4 years. But a lot of people might not even know about that product outside of our hobby. But it starts here, and it expands out.
Yeah, and I think just to that point, in like what John said was about, you know, we value brand equity tremendously because it's very expensive to build a brand, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you don't want to have to re-educate the consumer on what a new brand is. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to come out with new brands. But when you're talking about 17 baseball releases, out of all the releases that we have so far this year, I mean, Chickle's the only new one that I can think of. And that the reason we added that one was because we felt there was a need in the marketplace for something a little different, and we tried something and had a nice portfolio of artists that could contribute to it. It didn't work like we'd hoped necessarily. We thought it would do a lot better and things like that. We'll try things like that, but when you're talking about 17 releases year over year, you know, 15 out of 17 coming back, we feel like we do deliver year over year brand value. So if there's something like, you know, when something runs its course like Topps Total, for example, that's one that eventually people quit buying. So, you know, the marketplace will tell us that. You know, we evaluate, the numbers don't lie. I mean, when people buy less of it, we might be doing better in the secondary market or something like that. But ultimately, it's not making us money, therefore we can't turn that into a commodity that you guys can buy and sell at the volumes that we should. So that we can create pride in that, actually. Or is there something in particular that you'd say, like a brand that went away that?
No, I was just looking back at how a lot of us started our collecting.
Yeah.
And how the younger collector doesn't start that way.
Yeah. Well, back, and I don't know how far back you're going, but like you go back in the 80s, it was just Topps. You know, until 81, you had Donruss and Fleer, which is one brand, right?
Count the 80s, but
yeah. And then in the 90s, I mean, there are hundreds of brands from a lot of different companies. So you just saying that the transition for a collector is harder because they might fall in love with the product and no longer be able to get that.
Correct. What happened is, at least when I was starting collecting, it was down at the local store selling candy. Okay, and it was you started your sets and you always, every year, you had the same repeatable item going on. Nowadays, when we go to card shows, at my age, and watch the kids here, they're moving